Hi, I'm Josh, your instructor for Studio Web for the semester at NSCC. I'm a local Halifax-based designer with around 10 years of experience in the field, and around 10 years ago I was in the same spot you are now. Well, we didn't have a Studio Web class, and I'm sure a lot of other classes you have been tweaked and changed over the years, but same idea. So before we get kicked off on this semester's course, I wanted to offer a few things I think have been fundamental to my current success as a designer, in hopes that I can impress some good habits on all of you. Today, in our very first video, we're going to be taking a look at 3 things. 1, time management. 2, scale. And 3, minimum viable product. 1, manage your time and manage it well. Whenever you get an assignment, whether it be within the figurative walls of this classroom or after you've been in the workforce, either freelancing or working for a company, time management is key. When an assignment lands on your desk, your first thought probably should be to jump in and just start playing with it and experimenting, trying to see how you can interpret what somebody's asking for. But after that initial burst of creative thinking, you should check how much time you have to finish the work. I'm talking all in. So any time you know is already out the window, like a shift at work tonight, or you have to feed the cat when you get home every day, that's less time that you have from the moment you receive the assignment through to the deadline. Once you have an idea of how many actual hours you could dedicate to a project, you'll be much more equipped to handle it at scale. Scale. Scale is an aspect of any project-based work that most people, unfortunately, end up having to figure out as they go along. To understand how to scale a project, you should take 2 things into account. 1, like we said, how much time do you have between now and the deadline? And 2, what does the minimum viable version, or the MVP of the end product look like? Let's talk about time first. Time in most cases is just going to mean, like I said, the time between when you're assigned a project and when the next milestone of the project is due. Milestones could be any number of things, including thumbnail sketches, a rough draft delivery, or a final delivered project. This is project dependent, but as a student, most of your projects probably just have 2 dates: the day the project is assigned and the day the project is due. There's a reason that time management was the first thing I referred to in this list. It's because time is a finite resource. In a context of scaling a project, you need to be mindful of how much time you have between the date something is assigned and its due date. A project you have 3 days to work on will, and should, look very different than a project you've been given 3 weeks to work on. That's scale. Making an MVP. Onto the minimum viable product. Well, what does that even mean? Glad you asked. The minimum viable product, or MVP, is an easy way to say, what's the least I can do and deliver this to meet the objectives of the brief? If you're designing a website, an MVP might be a wireframe design with placeholder images and lorem ipsum in place of real text. Something like that would communicate the idea of a design so that somebody reviewing it later can see that it's meeting the brief before it's finalized. Now, I wouldn't deliver the MVP version of the project unless it's a milestone somebody has asked for specifically. The MVP is useful because it lets you complete the project objectives up front, allowing your creativity to take over so you can elevate it far above the minimum version of the concept. You know you can take what you've designed, and you know it works, and you can take it to new heights. Dieter Rams, an industrial designer who brought modernism to everyday consumer goods, and someone who was a major influence on Steve Jobs, the Apple guy, once said, "Good design is as little design as possible." So I say, start there. Well, that's all I've got for you today, and I don't want to make these videos so long that they're unbearable, but if you like what I've done, maybe more importantly, if you find it useful, let me know. I'm going to make more either way, but I'd love to hear what you think so I can tune these to everyone who's watching. So, thank you. I'll see you in class.